Hello everyone. In this session, we will discuss about increase in parallelism. Already in the previous session, we have also talked about parallelism in terms of bit level parallelism, data level parallelism, task level parallelism. As a continuation of that topic, we will now focus on how we can improve parallelism so that the overall performance of the system is going to be improved. In general, if I want to improve the performance of a computer, either we can just go in for parallelism or for pipelining. So parallelism means we will be demanding multiple units, multiple functional units. It could be hardware, multiple adder circuits, subtractor circuits, like that. In terms of hardware, functional units can be provided more than one, and we will try to utilize all these functional units together to improve the overall throughput. Another mechanism is by means of pipelining. So before getting into this pipelining concept, maybe we have to just quickly walk through on how actually an instruction execution is going to be done. Maybe we would just see with different stages of instruction. Okay, so for example, any instruction execution, if you just take, it will be having the following phases. Okay, instruction execution is going to be constitute of four phases. Okay, the first phase, to execute an instruction, we need it, so we have to fetch the instruction. So fetching the instruction is going to be the first stage. After fetching the instruction, we will be decoding the instruction. Why we decode? Only if we decode the instruction, we will come to understand what sort of operation is to be done. Okay, after decoding the instruction, then the processor will come to understand how many operands it requires to execute. So it will calculate the address of the fetching operand. So it will calculate the address. So where the operand is going to be available, that address has to be calculated. So it will calculate the address of the operand where we are going to perform the operation. And after calculating the address, then it will proceed to fetch the operands. So then only after calculating the effective address of the operand, it will be fetching the operand. And after fetching the operand, then it will be ready for execution. Okay, after executing, it will be writing the result. So if you take execution of any instruction, it has to follow these four phases. First, we have to fetch the instruction from the memory. After fetching, it has to be decoded. After decoding, based on the nature of the instruction, whether it needs single operand, two operands, or three operands, accordingly it will calculate the address of the operand, and then it will fetch the operand. After fetching, it will perform the execution and then writing back. When you observe the sequence of flow of processing, now at one point of time, this unit, hardware unit which are available for performing the fetching, will be engaged in the fetching process. And once the instruction moves to the second stage, then the first stage hardware unit is going to be idle. And similarly, if the instruction completes the second stage, then it will move on to the third stage. Then it will move on to the fourth stage. At any point of time, only one stage will be active. So the hardware associated with that particular stage alone will be active, and all the hardwares related to the remaining stages will be idle. Now, the concept of pipelining is to utilize all the hardware unit effectively, so that we will improve the overall performance. How that can be done? By overlapping these stages of execution. So the pipelining concept is going to improve the overall performance by making all the stages active. So it is not going to keep any of the stages idle. It will try to overlap different stages of instruction execution, and then by that way also we are trying to improve the performance. If we consider pipelining, there is no need for actually multiple units. Even if single units are available to execute each stage, by overlapping the different stages, we will be able to improve the overall performance. Now coming back to the concept here, we are going to see how this parallelism can be improved or increased, and at what complexity it will be increased. Actually, there are so many factors that influence the performance of the system, namely the clock cycle. So if I increase the clock cycles, I can do more number of operations within the given period of time. So that is also one way to improve the performance. Another method is we will have multiple units. If I have multiple functional units, I can supply all these units with the data, and I can do things in parallel. Then also I will be improving the performance. So like this, or I can increase the transistor density so that more components can be dumped on the same system, and by that way also we can improve. So now in terms of complexity, how this parallelism can be achieved, that's what we are going to discuss. So first concept what I told was pipelining. By pipelining, we will be trying to overlap the different stages of instruction execution. So the second category as listed here is the superscalar. What do you mean by superscalar structure? Here we have multiple pipelines and they can be constructed by replicating the executing resources. So we have some resources, set of resources for performing this execution, and if these resources are available in multiple in numbers, then also we can perform parallel execution. So by doing parallel execution and combining parallel pipelining, we will be able to improve the performance. As such, we all know there are two techniques available to improve the performance of a system. One is pipelining, another one is parallelism. So parallelism demands multiple hardware, whereas pipelining single we identify different steps involved in the execution process, and by overlapping these stages of different instructions, we are improving the performance. And now, if you observe the superscalar structure, we have this cache L2 cache, okay, and this cache itself can be splitted to provide two caches, one for maintaining the instruction, another for data. And if you have instruction cache, the instruction fetch unit will keep fetching the instructions from the instruction cache with the help of the counter content. So the program counter will be pointing to the instruction to be fetched, and with the help of that pointer, it will be fetching the instruction and it will make it ready in the buffer. So this is one way. Another method, another way in this cache is that we have a separate portion, that is what we call split cache. We are splitting the cache into instruction and data. The data is separately stored in different cache, and these data cache can supply all the data required for performing the execution, and a separate queue can be maintained, and this can be done in parallel. So when we want to execute the instruction, we told we have to fetch the instruction. So the instruction fetching can happen in this instruction cache. Parallelly, we can fetch the data from the data cache. If this facility is not there, what we will be doing? We will be completing the first stage, and after completing, we will decode it, and after decoding, we will come to know whether we want to fetch the operand, and then only we will start in the fetching process of the operand. But if we are having two different caches, one to maintain instruction, another to data, we can do things in parallel by fetching the instruction at the same time. You are fetching the data also and keep it ready in the queue. And once the instruction is decoded, now by the time the data will be ready, immediately it can start execution. If this setup is not there, what it has to do, it has to wait till the data is fetched. So that waiting time or that idle time is going to be minimized in this superscalar structure. So in superscalar structure, we are going to parallelly fetch the instruction, and the data cache will be parallelly supplying the data, and that will be maintained in the queue, and by means of single threaded register file we will be able to implement the actual logic. Okay, so this is one method. Second method, by superscalar structure we can improve the performance of the system. The next one is the next concept is called as SMT. Usually it will be called as SMT. It is nothing but simultaneous multi-threading. Now in this structure, what we are going to have, we have the cache as usual, and it is going to be splitted, one to store the instruction, another to store the data, and we have the instruction fetch unit. So what this instruction fetch unit will do, it will keep fetching the instructions well in advance as pointed by the program counter, and all these instructions will be kept in a queue, a buffer of registers. So all the instructions will be made available here itself. Every time if it is going to fetch it from the memory, it is going to be a time consuming activity. So it will be fetching all the instructions and it will be keeping it in the buffer. Whereas the data cache, that will also get ready by fetching all the data required, and it will fill up the registers with the relevant data. So as we have the instructions and the data ready simultaneously, then it will immediately move on to the third stage, namely the execution stage, where it will need not wait to fetch the data. Immediately the data is available here, so it will immediately start executing the operation, and thereby we are able to improve the performance. So this method is called as simultaneous multi-threading. Why we call as multi-thread is we have multiple instructions readily fetched, and these multiple instructions can start their work parallelly by getting the work done with multiple threads. So each thread will take care of one instruction, and they will be able to complete the task well before. And the next level of parallelism that can be realized is by means of the concept of multi-core. Here what we mean by multi-core, we have processors, different processors. Each processor are going to be stacked in the IC one upon the other, and we're going to call one processor laid on one chip as a core, and there will be another processor stacked over the same core, the same CPU, same processor, same chip, and that is going to be called as core 2. Like that, we can have multiple cores. So all these cores are going to be stacked one upon the other, and they are going to be available as a single unit, single processor unit, single CPU. Seems to be like single CPU, but in vertical dimension, it will be having multiple cores stacked on one over the other, and these cores can be having the same infrastructure. If they have the same infrastructure, they are going to be called as homogeneous cores, and if they support multiple structures, then it is going to be called as a heterogeneous cores. Anyhow, it is not our scope of discussion here. Either it would be homogeneous or heterogeneous. We have multiple cores in our hand, and whatever the cache we have at the level 2, this cache will supply the data to individual cores by their own local cache. So each core will have their own local cache, and that local cache is available in a splitted form, namely the instruction cache and the data cache. So each of these cores will be supplied with a set of instructions and data to be executed by this core, and we are able to execute the instructions simultaneously in all the cores. This is what we mean by see, each core by default it can be having the concept of superscalar structure or simultaneous multi-threading, what we have discussed before, and individual such cores can be operated simultaneously. So I think now we can appreciate the level of complexity what we have discussed so far. To start with, we have discussed about the superscalar structure. In superscalar structure, we have only one fetch unit, and one instruction will be fetched, and one set of data will be fetched and will be kept ready. Whereas in the simultaneous multi-threading, we have multiple instructions fetched, and multiple instructions are made ready in the respective buffers, and the data for those instructions are also made ready available in the registers. So we will be able to execute these multi instructions parallelly by means of multiple threading, where each thread will be dedicated to a particular instruction. And the next level of complexity is we can have this setup, either multi-threading setup or the previous concept, that is superscalar structure, and that will be there in core. Like that, we have multiple cores arranged, and each core will be operated parallelly. Okay, so thereby we are able to improve the parallelism by these three levels of uh, approaches. Now, simultaneous multi-threading, as we told, we have the register banks and so many register banks, and each register set of banks will be ready with the data to be executed. And now, just we will just focus on how actually this parallelism is going to be implemented by means of pipelining. We have just any execution of the instruction, as I told, it has to undergo 4 stages. These 4 stages can be completed either in the non-pipelined form or in the pipelined form. If it is non-pipelined form, how it is going to look like? Maybe if you just see this example, it will be clear. First, it will start executing the first instruction. Then, after completing the first instruction, all the 4 stages, then it will take up the second instruction, completes. Then it will take up the third instruction. Like this, it will be executing only one instruction at a time, and that's what we mean by non-pipelined architecture. Coming to the pipelined implementation, how it is going to work? We are just going. This is non-pipelined instruction. It is going to stack one after another. So in sequential manner, it will be executing the instructions. So this will be the total time taken to complete all the 3 instructions. But if I am going to implement in the pipelined form, I am trying to overlap the execution of the instruction one upon the other, and by this way, I will be able to see, if you just observe this diagram, I will be able to complete the execution of 3 instructions from this period till this period. But whereas if it is non-pipelined execution, it will be executing the instruction only one at a time. So it will take the time as individual instructions. It will be continuously consolidated, and it will take this much amount of time. When it comes to pipeline, it is overlapping, and so we are able to complete the 3 instruction execution well in advance. Of course, we will assume that everything happens in a smooth manner, but in certain cases there are some problems or hazards which can be experienced, which may delay the pipeline. And anyhow, that is not our scope of discussion to discuss pipeline in detail. We are just discussing about parallelism. So in general, we will be improving the performance of any computers either by two techniques. One is by means of parallelism, another one is by means of pipelining. In parallelism, we will demand multiple parallel units, and each unit will be doing its operation simultaneously. And in pipelining, it's not that we have multiple units. We will be identifying each instruction as different stages, 4 or 5 stages, and we will try to overlap these stages. The purpose of overlapping these stages is to utilize all the hardware unit effectively, and we ensure that none of the unit is going to be idle. And by making all the hardware units active, we will be able to improve the overall performance. So this completes the concept discussion of the concept related to parallelism. Thank you.